PR Connections Radio presents
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Cozy Up and Pay Attention, the Parent Edition. Usually, if you're looking at the space, it's Tuesday Pacific Standard Time at 2 o'clock, and I am here to present another wonderful parent who is going to share her experiences of bringing and raising another responsible adult into this world. So, if you would please take a deep breath and let it out. I'll be right back.
Cozy Stone is a multi-talented comedian extraordinaire who has a real lust for life. She also combines humor and motivation, where she is known as a humorvational speaker. Her youthful ways and positive light make her a beacon for those of all ages. Cozy has lived a remarkable life that has paved the way for so many. She had the longest running open mic venue of 11 years at Tommy Rockers in Vegas, called Cozy's Comedy Corner, through which she introduced many up-and-coming comedians. Before going into comedy, she was one of the first female personal trainers and one of the top fitness trainers in the world. She has trained many greats such as Billie Jean King, Roberta Flack, Andrew Young, Ed Bradley, CCH Pounder, Al Pacino, and Earl Monroe. As a former competitive bodybuilder, she also owned a bodybuilding gym for women over 40 in Los Angeles for several years. She has worked in top positions for HBO, Playboy, and Tony Robbins. She also enjoys volunteer work, dedicating time to the New York Foundling Hospital and babies with AIDS. Cozy Stone has a message that shouldn't be missed.
Welcome back. If you would kindly bring me my wonderful guest for the day, Miss Vicki Campbell. Good afternoon, Miss Campbell. How are you?
I'm good, Cozy. Thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome. And before we get started, it bears for me to say to repeat to my audience every week, we know that there is no such thing as a perfect parent for each and every child. There are no rules and regulations or protocol that goes with parenting. There's no such thing as a perfect parent. And just as importantly, I want everyone to hear me say this every week. This show has nothing to do with parent shaming. Well, what I'd like to do, Vicki, is to give the audience an idea of your background, because more often than not, who we are is where we came from. So if you would tell me, please, where did your parents meet? What city? How old were they when they had their first child?
My mother is from Penn, North Dakota, and my dad's from Williston, North Dakota. I'm not sure exactly where they met.
Okay.
But all of my siblings and I were born in Devil's Lake. I'm thinking my mom might have been like 20 when they got married. Dad was 3 years older.
Okay. And how old were you and where were you? Have you been married once?
2 times.
All right. So let's stick with the first one. It's the only one that matters. How old were you when you got married, and how old were you when you had your first child?
17 and 17.
Okay. And where did you two meet?
In my hometown, Devil's Lake, North Dakota.
Okay. When you found out, planned or unplanned pregnancy?
No, not planned.
Right.
I graduated from high school. 2 days later, got married. 3 months later, my son was born before my 18th birthday. Not exactly how I would have planned it, but stuff happens.
That's it. And that's what this show is about. It's not a matter about the lemons. It's a matter about the lemonade. So you're 17, have a baby with this young man. What were some of his best qualities? Or as I like to say, was it his brains, his beauty, or his bronze initially, even at 17, that you were attracted to?
He was a couple years older than me, so he had a job. That's kind of important. He came from a smaller town than I did, and a small town is small town. So I think that maybe was the attraction of sorts. And he came from a big family of 9 kids. I came from a family of 7 kids.
Ooh.
I know.
All right.
Ouch.
So even before your unplanned pregnancy, little girls play with dolls, and we see all the Cinderella stories on TV. Did you one day, planned or unplanned, did you want to be a mom?
Oh, I think to be a mom, yes,
Okay.
for sure.
So even though it was unplanned and you found out, and because I know your age category, we didn't have sticks back then. So you missed your period, you went to the doctor, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
The family doctor, yeah, that brought all of us kids into the world. I'm like, oh my goodness. Ah!
So when you hear the news, it doesn't matter if you're 17, was it fear or fantasy that immediately hit you?
I thought my parents were going to kill me. Fear,
Right,
for sure.
right. Now, he's 17, you're 17.
No, he's 19. He's 19.
He's 19.
He'd already, yeah, so he's 2 years older.
All right.
Yep.
You come from 7. He comes from 9. There's a big family and there's different households. I like to ask, once you guys, did you get married?
Yes.
Okay. So now you're playing house, right? You're inside, you're raising this little human being,
Oof.
and you're young. What were some of the things that you both agreed on to bring this child up?
Well, maybe not agreed. What I mean, I
Well,
can
then
tell you
that's
what we
and that's
okay,
usually the way
agreed.
I ask
Let's
it.
agreed on. Well, fortunately, you know what? Both sides of the family were very supportive of and my son was the first grandchild
Yes.
on my side of the family. So we agreed on that. And I think you're so young, you don't know any better. I was very fortunate that a second cousin of mine was the babysitter when I was, when I went back to work. So I was fortunate about that.
Okay. And you just mentioned I always ask you to have a support system, and you did. How long did you and your husband stay together to raise your child?
Well, I have a daughter too,
Okay.
14 years.
Oh, good. Good. All right. And so he was involved. You did co-parent under the same roof for 14 years.
Yes.
All right. So let's go back to my question I asked a moment ago. 14 years, you're raising children. The personalities kick in. He hears what his parents did. You remember what your parents did. So let's go back to the question I usually ask. What were some of the differences that you had to meld to be on the same wavelength?
Religion. The differences in religion. My dad was Catholic. My mom was Lutheran. We were brought up Lutheran. His family was Catholic. And, my kids were both baptized Catholic. I felt like I wanted them to have a religion. And, I went along with it. Let's put it that way.
Okay. All right. That's a big one. I think that's a first.
It's a big one. No, truly a big one.
It is. Yeah, they're all big ones. The reality is, once you decide to bring a kid in this world, yes, preferably with a partner, something and someone's going to be different. How do we bring these differences together as one? All right. Again, back to being 17, 19. Let's stick with you as the mom. What were 3 things? You're pregnant now. You've got 9 months to carry and bring this human being into the world. What were 3 things that went through your mind before giving birth? 3 things you maybe wanted in place, not to mention being older. Let's not bring that back in.
Well, and I didn't know, we didn't know the sex. So that was a surprise. Healthy is a big thing. Where we're going to get the money to raise this child. And, what, he had a career already, and what was mine going to be? Because I always felt like I was going to do something.
You did not want to be a stay-at-home mom.
I don't think that was in the cards. Never really was when I was married to him. Never was in the cards.
But my question also, whether it was his question, was that something you wanted to not be? Did you want to be a stay-at-home mom or not?
I don't think so. My mom always worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna go backwards a moment. Your parents were not that old. You two were very young. You did get married. You handled this unplanned pregnancy. He had a job. You assumed your responsibilities. You dealt with the differences of religion. You recognized the things that were important that needed to be implemented into raising this child.
Right.
All of these things are so important. And I have this show to bring your experience, and everyone that's been on here, it's somebody else's experience and or will be someone else's experience down the line. The one last question about your past that I like to ask you and not him, because it was your household. In your household, what were two things that your mom or dad or your parents said to you? I call it the yak, 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 that what was really preparation and we thought was punishment because I heard you already, that you found yourself saying to your kids?
Gosh, let me think about that. You know what? Be respectful.
Okay. All right. So that's what your parents said to you. Okay. And chances are, and the reason I asked that, Vicki, is because we become our parents, right? Whether you have a kid or not. I am so my mother, and the words that come out of his mouth are the words that came out of her mouth. Honest to goodness.
Yeah.
It's what makes us, it's our backbones. But with children, and all we think is it's just a pain in the butt. I heard you already. Please stop saying that. Well, those are the things that I guess if we think of Pavlov's, it's called conditioning, because you hear it, you hear it, you hear it, you hear it, you act it, you believe it. It becomes part of your personality. And then as parents, that is what you share to help raise your children to be the best they can be. So we did our background on you. Let's get to your very first question that you chose. This runs into what we just asked. How much of your parents' disciplines did you use?
Well, they were super strict. So I found a happy medium. I tried to find, I don't want to go so far right or left. I tried to find that happy medium just because I felt that was a better direction. I think it worked better for me and for my kids.
Can you give me one or two examples?
Well, I'll give you an example. My daughter wanted to buy this dress. And I said, well, you have to work for it. You earn the money for half of it and I'll pay for the other half. That's one. And then my son started working at 14 at the grocery store, and he learned how to make his own dinner and wash his clothes.
So are those three examples of what your parents made you do? Wash your clothes, save your money, would meet you halfway if it was something that you wanted.
Yeah.
The discipline.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's important. The next question is, explain an unexpected challenge. And you can pick both kids or one kid.
Well, I'll tell you that we were in Fargo, North Dakota. And we had, I know it's crazy. And they had a pool there, and both kids, one day, one of them fell in the pool and had trouble getting out and had to jump in. And then the next day, the other one did that, and I had to jump in. Woo, that's the challenge. That was a challenge. And at that point, I learned how to do CPR.
Okay. And did you put them in swimming classes the day after that?
Oh, of course. Absolutely. They were little. They were both little. I mean, they're 4 years apart, but they were both little. So they, and my daughter especially, was like a fish, but still she was in the deep end, thought she could do that. And not sure why my son did it, but anyway, it happened. And yeah, they both were in swimming. And in Devil's Lake during the summer, the pools are not heated, so it's like an ice bath. Taking swimming lessons, it was quite the shock.
Right.
But you do what you got to do.
Yes. And again, that question is posed because some kids don't have fear for the most part. They jump off of things, they touch things, they put their fingers in things, they put things in their mouths. So I like to ask, what was an unexpected challenge? Your next question is, did you attend your children's parent-teacher meetings? And why?
Well, you have to. I mean, you want to know what they're doing, how well they're doing, if they have problems or issues. So absolutely. Okay. Always.
All right. I do speaking in some of the Clark County schools, and the teachers, hands down, say to me, because I wanted to do an engagement for the parents in the evening when they got off, and they assured me those parents will not show up. They said, Cozy, they won't show up. They said they, for the most part, and whoever's listening, if it's not you, don't take umbrage to it. Most of them, just more than 80%, don't show up. They don't come to parent-teacher meetings. They just don't. We're going to leave it right there. Your next question is, tell me a bit about your parenting style. And in that, I wrote whether you were permissive, authoritative, and I know you weren't neglectful. So take that one off the table. How permissive? Let's put it this way: how permissive or how authoritative were you?
Well, like I said, I found that balance between, if you're going, who are you going with, how are you getting home, who's going to drive, all of that. Don't be drinking and driving, all that kind of stuff. Did they get to go to everything? No. Did they get to go to some things? Yes. I think in that respect, like I said, I tried to find that balance. My parents were super strict. There were 7 of us. With my kids, there were only 2. Right. But, they had good friends, and I wanted to know what their friends were about, and if they were good influences on them. So it appeared that, as they were growing up, that they had good friends.
And you, I'm not going to state it. And did you know your children's, their parents? Their friends' parents.
Most of the time, yes. Yeah. Well, this is a small town, Cozy. Everybody knew everybody.
What about, I never get to ask these questions, but we're a little ahead of the game, so I can do this. Okay. What about curfews? Did your teenagers have curfews? Yeah, and how long? To what age, and what were the hours?
Well, I'm trying to think. I mean, I think 11 o'clock. I'm trying to think 9 o'clock, maybe 9-year or high school, mid high school, maybe 10 o'clock. It depended on what it was. I mean, if it was a big event like prom or whatever, and then midnight. I mean, I don't think anybody needed to stay longer than 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock.
Well, as we now know as adults, nothing good happens after midnight.
Well, kind of, that's true. I think that's right. Even as adults, you're right. Better be home. Why?
And we live in a city where that should be our slogan. Nothing good happens after midnight.
And I prefer not to be out and about. Neither.
And because we did not have, by the grace of God, cell phones at that time, they knew when to come home. And I'm sure, I'll have people on, and there are people listening saying I gave them curfews, they didn't listen. But there's a price to pay for not listening. And that's why I ask.
Yeah.
Did they have curfews? Did they abide by it? And did you sanction it out? There's very little.
I mean, they did abide by it. Nobody got into trouble. Thank goodness. Okay. Thank goodness. I mean, nothing that was so egregious that we couldn't deal with it. Yeah, they were good. And yeah.
And like you said, you're in a one-horse town. It wasn't like that.
I'm telling you, everybody knows your business. Everybody. Oh, there's Vicki's daughter. There's Vicki's son. Mm-hmm. And it was like that when we were growing up. Oh, there's Bob and Inez's kids. What are they doing? And I'm pretty sure they called. What are they
Yes.
doing there?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
That's the
small
time
town
and era.
USA.
That's the time and era, whether it was your one horse town or my New York City and Atlantic City when I was
Wow.
younger, Atlantic City from 1 to 12. We all knew when either our parents, this is the way it was, I call it Mayberry USA. So our parents would come out, it almost as if they were on a clock, and they just all start screaming their kids' names. And we all just disperse and we run in whatever direction. And at the end of the 5 seconds or however minutes, there's not one kid left in the middle of the street because there's nobody for them to play with.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go. We came out together. We ate dinner. We came out. We did homework. We came out. Summertime, of course, you're out all the time. And then when I moved to New York, for the most part, I'd say from 12 to at least 15. I don't know if they were in everybody's business, but they surely was in my mother's children's business. So, oh yeah, let me tell you what's going on with your daughter, kind of thing. Being
Oh,
nosy,
great.
trying to get me in trouble, but it's okay. Your next question is, your last question. I don't know if it's the same one that you just shared, so hopefully you'll have another one. It says,
Okay.
share a panic moment and how you came over it. So other than the pool, which was an unexpected challenge, do you have another panic moment to share?
A couple of them. So Chad was in hockey and he hit the ice and split his chin open and had to rush him to the hospital. And then Kara, she was younger and we were at Devil's Lake, Devil's Lake, and she stepped on somebody had, they were cooking and they were like a rock with holes and stuff, and she stepped on it, and she was little, like 2, and so we had to rush her to the hospital. Whole foot, here's the foot, and then here's the blister, like this big,
Mhm.
and I mean it healed up okay, but that's still kind of scary because I think that was probably half hour away to get to the hospital. Yeah. Other than that, nobody broke their arms, none of that kind of stuff. So it
All right.
wasn't too bad.
I'm going to throw another question at you again. You've done a great job of elaborating, but somehow the answers are still short, which I love, because sometimes my parents get on here and then I have to, so I can get the question. So let me do this one. Boy, girl,
Okay.
If you did, what age did you discuss sex, drinking, and drugs?
Oh, that was probably, maybe 10-ish,
Wow.
kind of getting early, maybe 10 or 12. And then they had, we had sex education in school too. So it was kind of a backfill with that. So we talked about that. Don't do this, do this. I mean, mom, that happened to mom. So, if you can help it, don't do that, and pay attention, get some kind of coverage or something so it doesn't happen, because it delayed. I've been very fortunate, Cozy. I've had a chance to do some amazing things, but that kind of delayed me for a little bit. And seriously, when you're in small town USA and you're walking down the street, oh my God, are you pregnant? I'm like, well, yeah. I thought, that's small town USA, and I'm like this. I'm a strong girl. I took it, but and I went on to do some really great things.
Yes,
Still doing them. So I'm
that's,
okay with that.
and that's why you're on the show.
Thank you.
And the reality is what I'm learning, and I love to say this every week. I learn something else that just instrumental in me doing the show. And one of the things that I've learned, and I think you're my 34th show, is there a good deal of you parents, you young women who are young parents who are telling their children that you were young, you didn't make the best responsible decision. And
Right.
let me just tell you that you don't have to make the same decision. And in a lot of instances, and I'm glad to hear that, because in a lot of instances they don't. And so there are also parents that they were young, teenage pregnancy, and then their kid became, and I'd say to them, well, didn't you tell your kid how you became pregnant at 15, 16 years old? And the
Yeah.
answer actually was no.
Why not?
I don't know that. That's a judgment call, and I'm not going to even try. But it's nice to, again, those who are listening, it is so okay. I have a new acquaintance, and I think she is just dynamite, uh, really dynamite. And she has told me how honest she's given her kids the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't know if some parents would go that far, but so what? She's got a relationship like this with her children.
Yeah.
She made herself human to them while
Yeah.
doing her job. Now, is there such a thing as your kids knowing too much? That's an individual choice,
Mm.
right? And I think that choice also comes back to what I say at the beginning of the show. Each child is different. And what her children have been able to withstand, your kids may not have, or somebody else's kids maybe not mature enough, or you're not doing a great job of explaining it. So, some of the things that she said, I don't have a hang up about anything, but I don't know if I would have gone that far. It's not important. What's important is that her kids heard her and they are not repeating her life.
Yeah, mine didn't either. I mean, in that respect, they
Right.
did not. And they're both, good kids and responsible, and they have great jobs.
Mhm.
Yay.
Yeah. You did a good job. You're proud of them. Let's do your fun question.
Oh,
And I have to say this every week. My audience may be tired of saying, is she really going to say that? I am, but let's try it. Let me throw it out there. Here's the
got it.
deal. If this is not the question you chose, I hope you do. And if you don't, I'll give you another one. So here goes.
Oh,
Would you rather be the best player on a horrible team or the worst player on a great team?
that's um that's a good question, Cozy. I don't know how I would answer that.
Well, let me
Because
go
if you're
back.
the best,
Stop. So
okay,
stop a minute.
okay.
I have to say this. Did you pick this question?
It doesn't sound right. It
That's
doesn't
what I'm
sound like the
thinking.
one. Okay,
And
because I'm like,
here's the other thing. I think when you folks, I'm starting to believe this because your questions came later than some of my other guests.
right.
I think when you guys pick them, you forget your question.
Okay.
Do you want to answer that, or I can give you? I've got 13 of them. I can give you another question.
Oh, throw me something else,
I'm going to give you an
please.
easy one because we got 3 minutes to
Oh,
go.
okay.
All right, I'll give you what I think is a fun one.
Okay.
Which of the seven dwarfs is most like you, and why?
Oh, I think happy, probably happy. I mean, I have that sleepy, depending on how many hours in the day I'm working, but pretty happy. I've survived into my 60s, and you know what? You know what? Use the frozen. Let it go.
Okay. All right.
That's it.
Well, Miss Vicki, we have come to the end of our 30 minutes, or we've got 2 minutes left. We went over how you came here, who you came from, where you came from, how you started your life as a parent, with whom you started your life, the disciplines, the protocols that you put in place to create these wonderful, responsible adults that are now walking around creating more wonderful, responsible adults.
Yeah.
And I like to say this every week from me and society at large. We all thank you. We all appreciate your doing your job for all of us because it is an us thing. The village, we are the village. And when the village is burning, we're all burning. When the village is thriving, we're all thriving. We would
Yeah.
all like to think that we can be in a society. It's not always going to be perfect, but I'd like to think at some point we can keep it as perfect as we can, right? And that's why, I talk about the ask, was it planned or unplanned? So what? So what? What did you do after you had that responsibility put on you, or you took care of it? And that's all that matters. That's all that matters. And what I like to say, first of all, again, thank you. Anyone who would like to be on my show, you can find me or send me an email at cozyupandpayattention@gmail.com. I am always looking for more parents who want to brag, celebrate, and promote their good and hard earnest work. Why not? The media talks about the bad parents. Cozy Stone wants to talk about the good parents. I also have two self-published books on Amazon called Cozyisms, The Art of Paying Attention, and they're full of witticism and quips and beautiful art. Please support me on Amazon. I also, at the end of the show, I'd like to say to each and every one of us, sometimes in life, when we know better, we do better. Vicki, thank you. I'll see you out and about. I will give you a call probably in the next 15 minutes. And I'm very grateful. And thank you for being on our show.
Thank you.
So you can leave the studio. Goodbye.